As climate change emerges as one of Americans' foremost concerns, experts have been debating the best solutions for this growing problem. Joining us now to discuss how a carbon tax can help address climate change while promoting economic growth is the Executive Director at Alliance for Market Solutions, Alex Flint. Thank you for joining us, Alex. Why do you think a carbon tax is better than other climate change solutions?
Well, the first thing we have to do is realize the scale of the problem, right? We are probably on track right now, given the amount of pollution the world is putting into the atmosphere, for global temperature to go up 6.5 degrees and sea level to rise about 30 inches by 2100. So that's the scale of the problem. The solution is we have to change the way all of us act, the way the economy is currently emitting CO2 into the atmosphere. So it's an individual transformation. We all need to change our lives to emit less CO2, but we also have to expect the corporate sector to change the way we produce glass, steel, aluminum, cars, everything that powers our economy. We have to figure out a way to do it that emits less pollution into the atmosphere. And the best thing to do is to say, polluting has a cost. We're going to charge that cost, and as a result, every individual and company is going to look to avoid paying that tax by changing their behavior. That's what drives the transformation to a low carbon economy.
I see. Okay, that makes sense. So then how can revenue from a carbon tax be used to benefit individuals and communities nationwide?
So, Jordan, the first thing to recognize is I'm a carbon tax advocate who hates taxes. I like the fact that people try to avoid paying taxes. So my counsel to my friends is if we do a carbon tax, don't pay it. Change your life, avoid paying the carbon tax. Any revenue that is collected should be used to reduce other taxes. Like income taxes and taxes on earnings and income are terrible. They create a disincentive for the work that powers the economy. So our suggestion is shift the tax burden onto pollution and reduce it from earnings and incomes. After all, we want more earnings and income and we want less pollution, and that aligns the tax policy with what our national and our global interests are.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was wondering how that would go hand in hand, but I'm with you on that. I don't want the tax, so let's just change our activities so that we don't have to pay it. What have businesses, though, been doing to address climate change?
So, Jordan, in the last 5 years, we've seen a huge shift in the way companies are talking about climate change in Washington. Corporate leaders recognize the climate is changing. They recognize it's going to affect the way they operate their companies going forward. And so now most companies are encouraging federal policymakers to take action on climate. And generally, companies don't like regulations. They look out and say the government's $30 trillion in debt. It probably can't afford to subsidize clean technologies for much longer. Instead, let's price carbon. That's the words that most companies use. And what pricing carbon generally means is imposing a tax or a fee on carbon pollution. It's consistent with the way businesses operate. It will change the cost of some of their feedstocks, but they know how to deal with changes in feedstocks. They will switch to less polluting technologies and energy sources. And companies today, in my view, are in front of the federal government, certainly, on climate policy.
Well, then let's talk about next steps. What should Congress be doing to combat climate change?
So it's taken us 50 years to create this problem. It's going to take us 50 years to solve this problem. Probably the most important thing is that Democrats and Republicans have to work together to agree on durable policies. Like, we're never going to fix this if we go 1 year doing one thing and another year doing something, enacting laws and repealing laws. We have to put policy in place that are long-lasting, durable, so that the economies and individual consumers can respond. So that I know, for example, gasoline is going to cost more over the long term, so I'm going to buy an electric car and not pay the tax on gasoline. Those sorts of long-term price signals are what we need.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us today. If we want to learn a little bit more, though, where can we go?
All the technical information is at amsresearch.org for those who really want to dig into it.
All right. Thanks again, Alex. And if you'd like to see this segment again, of course, you can head to our website, firstcoastliving.net.